Welcome to Comfort Crime with Lindsay Sanchez, a cozy mystery podcast where no actual crimes have been committed. Today we'll continue Death at Dogwood Lake, a novella about Georgia Lennox, whose perfect first date turns into a perfect nightmare when she discovers a dead body, and instead of finding romance, she's pulled into a murder investigation where hometown secrets run deeper than the alpine lake where it all started. If this is your first time here, welcome! And please start with episode 1, chapter 1. There is a link to it in the show notes. For everyone else, we'll continue to chapter 9. But first, an update. A huge thank you to everyone who voted in last week's cover extravaganza. I'm going to claim that as the proper usage of the word because hearing from you all was such extravagant fun. Your enthusiasm was incredible, and there were some very clear winners that emerged, some clear favorites. I will be announcing the top cover designs in this week's newsletter. So if you haven't joined the newsletter yet, what are you waiting for? Sign up for Cozy Mystery Book recommendations, the latest podcast episodes, and behind-the-scene writing updates. And yes, more chances to vote on important decisions. Speaking of, stay tuned because I'm going to need your vote again sooner than you might think. The link is in the show notes. And as far as my work in progress, there's murder, mayhem, and possibly too much small-town gossip. That's all I can tell you for now, but seriously stay tuned because the future of this work in progress and the podcast is what you'll be voting on next. Last time, Georgia knew, with her father leading the investigation, that she should stay far away from the case, but when the mysterious man in flip-flops steals the contract right before her eyes, she can't resist following the trail across the valley to the suspiciously empty Pineville nursery. But finding the man was the least of her worries when he called the cops on her, and her dad had to pick her up for the second time. Death at Dogwood Lake, Chapter 9. Georgia sat alone in the kitchen, watching the timer above the oven. After being picked up by her police officer father for a second time that day, she'd been grounded. Her parents hadn't called it that. Family time was the phrase they'd used. It still being her 16th birthday and all, but yeah, she was grounded. And aside from taking Rose the lasagna, Georgia would bet every dollar she had that they wouldn't leave the house, unless her dad got called back to work. He was leading the investigation, she knew that, but the look on his face when he'd picked her up, his busy schedule interrupted. She'd never seen him like that before. Instead of dropping her off and heading straight back to the station, he'd followed her into the house. Like he had to make sure she didn't sneak away, he even asked Shelley to come talk to him. Surely about her, and what kind of punishment they should inflict after the 24-hour birthday sanction had passed. Her parents' low voices hummed from their room above the kitchen, ghosts of their conversation echoing through the vents. 5 minutes left on the lasagna timer. At this point, if she never had a birthday again, it would be too soon. There was no hope to salvage the day, no amount of Sienna saying she'd take her shopping, or that it was fine. 16th birthdays were overrated anyway. None of that would help. And as cute as little Nicky was, he really didn't have a clue. She couldn't blame her parents. They had tried. But when you find a dead body, there's just not much anyone can do. The pitch of her parents' conversation rose in volume and several decibels, making the echoes through the vent more solid, cohesive, almost coherent. They were undoubtedly arguing about her, either how to punish her, how to help her have a better night, or possibly how hard they should push her into therapy after the trauma of the morning. She turned off the fan above the stove, slid a kitchen chair to the nearest vent, and climbed up, getting herself as close to the ceiling as she could. "What do you mean they took you off the case?" George's mom sounded like she couldn't believe her own words. "Exactly that, Shelley. Exactly that. Like, just for the night, so you can spend the evening with your family, with your daughter who's probably traumatized beyond repair, right? Like that kind of taking you off the case." "No, Shelley, like permanently, indefinitely. At this point, I'm lucky I wasn't suspended." "But traffic duty? That's their solution?" "There's not much to say, babe. Georgia was interfering with the investigation, and even though Chief Douglas doesn't believe that I had anything to do with it, there's no way to prove that. They're just mitigating the situation and hoping the judge doesn't throw out the case when the defense finds out." "I just don't understand. Even if Georgia was meddling, which I don't think they can prove, how does that have anything to do with you? I know she's your daughter, but they can't tie you to any of this." "They don't have to. The suspicion is enough." "But what is suspicious? She was with her friend, the boy she'd been on a date with, and then she went for a bike ride." "That's just it. She wasn't with Jake when I picked her up, and it wouldn't matter if she had been. There is incriminating evidence on her phone, obtained illegally, and I have access to it." Hot panic flushed Georgia's face and slid drops of sweat down her back. She'd been so caught up in the mystery and her own need for understanding it, she hadn't stopped to think about how it would impact everyone else. She'd known not to mess with anything. She'd known to be careful. But she hadn't thought about what might happen if she wasn't careful enough. That's why her dad was really home, not for her birthday, but because he'd been taken off the case. The oven dinged. Georgia climbed down and sat on the chair, hunching over, her elbows on her knees, her head in her hands. Only moments before, she'd thought her birthday couldn't get any worse, that there was nothing left to destroy. She'd been wrong. The timer dinged again, beeping into the lonely room. In Georgia's self-pity, she went to the oven, turned on the light to see if the cheese was bubbling. Yep, golden brown. She grabbed a hot pad from the drawer and opened the oven door just as her mom came in. "Oh, sweetheart, you don't have to do that." Her mom took the pad from her and quickly grabbed the casserole from the oven. She smiled, but it didn't erase the worry lines around her eyes. "I want to help." Georgia shut the oven and turned off the timer. It was true. Her birthday was a lost cause. The only hope she had now was trying to make this day better for everyone else. "Where is Sienna?" Her mom pulled a bagged salad from the fridge and a loaf of sourdough bread from the cupboard. "She's playing Go Fish with Nikki." "Okay," Shelley sighed, clearly torn. "You want me to get her?" "I don't want to break up their game. He's been begging her to play with him for like a month." "Mom, I can help you bring it over." Shelley eyed her like she was trying to decide if Georgia was playing a trick on her or not. "I'm serious." Georgia put another oven mitt on and picked up the casserole to show her sincerity. "I don't mind. Today's not much of a birthday anyway." "That doesn't make me feel better about you helping." Shelley hesitated as she placed homemade cookies on a paper plate. "It's okay, Mom. There's not much we can do about it now." Shelley rolled her eyes, but she didn't argue. She just finished placing the warm chocolate chip cookies on the plate and packaging the rest of the dinner in a reusable grocery sack. Georgia got in the car, putting the oven mitts under the lasagna to protect her legs from the heat. She waited for her mom. By the time Shelley got in the car and drove to Rose's, Georgia's hands were aching from the weight of the ceramic dish loaded with cheese and pasta. At this point, all she wanted to do was go home and curl up on the couch with her favorite book, forgetting that today had ever happened. As soon as they dropped off this casserole, that's exactly what she was going to do. Georgia got out of the car. She stepped over the muddy patch of balding grass where the hose lay dripping, sidestepped the tricycle precariously balanced on the second step, and pressed the doorbell with her elbow, the metallic ding-dong echoing back through the front door as her mom joined her on the top step. The curtains didn't move. No other sound escaped the closed door. "Did you tell them we were coming?" Georgia asked, about to press the doorbell with her elbow again. Shelley shook her head. "You can't ask to bring someone a meal when they've just lost their husband. You just have to do it." Her mom reached around Georgia and grabbed the handle, the knob turning easily in her hand. She poked her head in the door and called, "Hello? Rose?" Georgia followed Shelley inside. The house was dark, except for a flickering blue light coming from downstairs, like a TV was on somewhere in the basement. "Rose? It's Shelley and Georgia." The house stayed quiet. Shelley put the salad in the fridge, the bread in the bread box, and turned on the oven to 200 degrees. "Wait until this heats up and then pop it in," she told Georgia. "Leave the foil on. I better just check downstairs to make sure they're okay. You stay here." Georgia sat at the cramped kitchen table, her hands weighted with the lasagna. She suddenly had to use the restroom, the glass of water she'd gulped after getting home finally catching up with her, and a dull ache forming behind her eyes from the dim light and the strobe-like flicker of the television. Or perhaps the headache was from lack of hydration. After the hike and the long bike ride in the heat, one glass of water wouldn't be enough. Or, and she didn't know how to test this theory, but maybe it was a byproduct of finding a dead body. Maybe everyone had a headache after stumbling on a neighbor face down in the lake. The oven dinged. Georgia blinked away the fatigue and put the casserole, still covered, in the oven. Should she wait for her mom here or follow her down? Had Shelley meant don't leave the house or don't leave the kitchen? Georgia shifted her weight from foot to foot. After the trouble of the day, she didn't dare go looking for a toilet, but if her mom didn't come soon, she wouldn't have a choice. 1 minute passed, then 2, 3, 4, until there was no longer any decision to make. It was find a bathroom or wet her pants. She really didn't want to meddle, didn't even want it to look like she was meddling, but surely she could use a bathroom. Georgia had never been inside Tom Harding's house, but it seemed a similar layout to several others in the area. So hopefully, by turning to the right and going down the hall, she'd soon hit a dead end with some kind of toilet. The hall ended in a collection of 3 doors, one on either side and the third straight ahead. The closest door was open, just an inch or 2. Through the crack, in the faint light filtering through the thin curtains, a bed, a desk, a pile of laundry. Just as Georgia was about to try the door to her left, something on the bedpost stopped her. A Dogwood College community hat. She froze, a light chill shivering down her spine. It was normal enough to have a hat hanging on the bedpost of a messy room, and lots of people had Dogwood Community College hats. But was that a dark spot on the rug below? And a dirty streak on the wall behind? Was the hat wet? "What are you doing here?" a deep voice said from behind. Georgia jumped, turned. Eric, Rose's son, stood at the end of the hall. Georgia backed away from the door. She'd found something again, this time without premeditation, but her curiosity had landed her in trouble again, this time maybe with a killer. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a mystery-loving friend, or consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast player. Most of all, thank you so much for being here today. I loved it, and I'm already excited for next week.